I made a video explaining some of the things from my Half-Life 2 Facts series, and you guys said that you liked it, thus this. There are two very powerful harpoons hidden in the chapter Sand Traps. If you use a harpoon to kill the first Antlion guard, the Vortigaunt will never come out to talk to you and you'll never be able to progress. When they were programming this, their focus was on the fact that the harpoons can impale things and stick them onto walls. When the harpoon kills something, it doesn't actually kill the NPC, it just deletes it and replaces it with a ragdoll. This breaks the level because the game is expecting the Antlion guard to die, but it technically never does. I got curious if there were any other props that have interesting interactions when they hit things, so I started looking for those. Most of what I found are just the usual suspects. Explosives exploding consistently when they hit things, and paint cans splattering paint. The harpoon from Lost Coast has all of the same mechanics, by the way, and so do these candle holders, although they are bugged. If you grab one and then run this in the console, this red line will show you the direction that the holder has to be moving for it to stick onto something. I also found out that there are two more of these harpoons on the next map. On this map, if you first go to New Little Odessa, and then look through these binoculars, some of the things that you could see through the binoculars will now actually be there in New Little Odessa.
I'd get into the basement if I were you. We're bracing for an attack.
Colonel Odessa Cubbage at your service.
Damn.
First, a correction. You don't actually have to go all the way out to New Little Odessa. You just have to touch this trigger. This trigger is what deletes the objects spawned by the binoculars. Regardless of if the objects actually exist, once this trigger is touched, it will delete itself. So if you use the binoculars after you touch this trigger, and you haven't already used the binoculars, then there is simply nothing left in the map to delete those objects later on. This trigger is what spawns the up-close versions of the objects that you see when you're actually going to New Little Odessa. Another fun aspect of this is that if you use the binoculars, touch the first trigger, and then go back to the binoculars, you can see absolutely no one in New Little Odessa. If you exit your vehicle while jumping off of this bridge, you may get launched into the air. There is a trigger over the gap to push you forward to help you make the jump. When you exit the vehicle, you're not able to move like normal, so the force from the trigger keeps building up for the entire time you're in the exit animation. If you hit Noriko with an explosive, she'll start playing various animations. Every time she is hit, a new one starts. Noriko is something called a cycler. Cyclers were first used in a Half-Life 1 demo map to showcase animations. Every time the entity was damaged, a new animation would start. Cyclers remained in use during Half-Life 1 because Valve never bothered to make any other general-purpose entity for displaying models. The animation switching functionality was never disabled, but it mostly didn't matter because most of the cyclers were impossible to hit or their models only had one animation, which was complete stillness. I did find 2 cases in Half-Life 1 where the effect is visible. In Half-Life 2, cyclers were replaced with more proper model entities, but some maps that already had cyclers were not updated. One cycler even made it all the way into Episode 2. Valve kept copying this same setup they had for an advisor on a screen. This was first used in Dark Energy, then copied several times in Episode 1 and once in Episode 2.